as an idea is out of the window.
Online, this is the 3 important characteristics of a good ontology that you build as an ontology developer. So the first one saying solid logical definitions, detailed textual definitions, useful to more than one project. And then second, say use a good upper ontology, use genus differential definitions, reuse pre-existing terms, and then this one say have a good community consensus-based definitions, texture and logical for all terms, reuse existing terms, have complete documentation, and then use upper ontology, reuse existing, provide textual definition and the logical definition if possible. And then you can already get a pattern here. We are talking about definitions and then reuse, and some are talking about using upper level ontology. So now this 2 answers a little bit different. It says accessible, rich attributes, searchable, and coherent, relevant, domain, subject, and fair. So I suppose that they were looking at the lower down the last one, some fair principles that we asked them to look, and the last one is axiomatized, and including relations for the definitions, I suppose, and then reuse, and then testing for usefulness, usability, and compared with other tools. So the pattern here that we see is the definition, the emphasis of the definition of both textual and logical.
Okay, just reporting, I connected my computer and we can see what you're showing now.
Oh, you can see what?
Yes. We're back with video, everyone in the room. Everyone is.
Oh, okay. So did you hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of emphasizing definitions, texture, and logical. And there's the axiomal needed, and there are some mention of reusing ontology, other well-defined ontology, use upper level ontology, and testing usability, usefulness, and compare with other tools. Any comments? I think this is very basic understanding of why we are building an ontology. We need to provide definitions. But I had, if we pull out the Obo Foundry ontology dashboard, you will see about maybe close to half of them doesn't have a good definitions. So then what is the barrier of people to providing the good definitions?
People's inability to come up with good definitions, but that's just me being an old crouch.
I think it requires a lot of time to figure out the right definition, and people do not want to spend too much time for something that they think they can still understand, and that's, I think, at least that is my experience. You know, people do not spend time in discussing if this is really a good definition, is cover all the things it needs to cover, has some inconsistency or not, and so people do not like to do that. I think that is the main reason why they are now with definition, I think.
Yeah, it's really time-consuming to do that. So now I just thinking it's because we have more and more tools, and then people think of using design pattern for the development. So we can actually it's proposed before, not now. It's just say how we can, provide the definition, automatically based on the logic axiom. But for the high level terms, it's still very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Another tricky thing with definitions is that we need to remember that we try to formalize these definitions in a logical framework that is very limited in what can be expressed, right? So if we look at OWL, we only have certain constructors that we can use. And especially if we restrict these constructors to a profile that allows us to do efficient reasoning, for example, EL, then it's sometimes quite hard to come up with proper definitions for complicated terms, right? And I think that might be another reason for why logical definitions are just hard to come by sometimes.
Yeah, and also it's very hard, especially provide the necessary and sufficient things. And also for me, I just found like, actually you can provide very complex, logic axiom if you want. And, but some logic axiom probably you will never ever use. So sometimes I just thinking is still based on the applications. I mean, use case, probably you can provide like useful logic axiom, but not that means probably for one project you need this kind of aspect, right, of the terms, and then for the other project probably need another one. There's actually it's a quite challenge.
Yeah. Anything from the audience in Brazil? Okay, so still definitions take time. I think based on this very small portion of survey, I'm going to maybe reach out more people, but I think we still need to strive for good definitions. At least this build the base of a good ontology, which can be used for a long time. So a little semantics goes a long way. Okay, now let's look at another one. Another one is saying that what are the 3 important characteristics of a good ontology that if you use it as an end user, if I am an end user, what are the ontologies that I'm going to choose? So again, there is solid logical definitions, detailed textual definitions, interoperable across several projects, which means I would say the ontologies really help to help the interoperability. And again, clear definitions, accurate labels, related terms, and explicitly connected via axioms. And then fit the use cases without needing extension, using standards or map to standard terminology. I only want to find one ontology in the domain, so that is my answer. Others will be accessible, open source, contains enough metadata. For example, clear label definition, example, issue tracker. I think these are real, very good user requirements that if somebody, like as a community who are building ontologies, who will need to pay attention to this. And I think we just discussed about the tracking the use of an ontology. Yeah, this is important, and I don't think we have a good solution for that. And then scope clear definitions, logical definition even better, and the unique identifier. Others well annotated, coherent, interoperable, natural language definition that are translatable into formal axioms, responsive of editors. So in this summary, one is, again, it's about definition. Second is more like for users, issue tracker, providing some documentation responsives for editors when it's more like responding to users, and providing clear definition and clear, accurate labels. to increase the usability of an ontology from users' perspective?
I think definition always comes, so I think the definition is really one of the key points. And as I think we pointed out even before, is not always pressed. So the definition are really not always there. We have a lot of ontology that do not even, you know, simple textual definition, you don't have any clue. And I think that is a, you know, recurring issue because it's coming before and now. So we should kind of focus more on why and how to improve having definition in the ontology.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then I asked people to give me some description of what is a bad ontology. So with that is interesting to see because then we will not do this. One is no definitions with weird labels, not reusing existing well-defined ontology terms, no metadata associated with them, and not following existing good practice ontology development principles. An ontology that do not have specification about domain and do not have definitions, do not reuse other ontology terms. Obviously, all the other elements are important, but listed above should be first one I looked and make me decide if I go further to use it. So this one is more, I think in Obo Foundry, there is a definition of a scope. What is the scope of your definition? Before anybody started to build ontology, they have to define what my ontology is covering. So that's usually covered by the definition of competency questions. So I can scope what I'm going to define. I think this is a very important point. And then another one said, bad ontology does not make any logical sense and refuse to be understood, which some characteristic of a bad ontology might be released to the public without adequate user testing and validation, lack of formula for constructing definitions, and the lack of well-defined relations. So here, I think this one made a very good point about adequate user testing and validation. A lot of times, some ontologies are built for specific research purposes. There is not much user testing. Maybe it's just one or two groups doing it, but over time, maybe there are more users to testing it. It's more on the maintenance and the sustainability of an ontology. So some ontology build only one-off. If you go to BioPortal, you can see a lot of ontologies like that. Therefore, they are not really usable. So I encourage you all, if you are going to build ontologies, do not build those bad ontologies that we see. So then here is the selections. So the most picked one, it's a little bit different with Fuji, what she did. It's searchable. People are picking searchable, accessible, and identifier, which is, and others, we all discussed a lot. Metadata for ontology, metadata for term. And from here, we have 10 minutes left. Anybody from local participants want to comment?
Questions, comments? Yeah. Use the microphone.
Okay, Stefan. Thank you.
I have several comments. Let me start with searchable. I think it's essential, but the question is this really the property of the ontology proper, or this needs to be supported by let's say additional thesaurus resource? For instance, if you assume you.
No, we lost you. You said if you what?
We cannot hear you.
I think the connection is not working. It's not connecting.
Is the audio working?
Oh,
Is
now
it-
it's working. Just at one point when Stefan said, if you, and then we didn't hear.
Yeah, so it's the
Now we can hear you. No. It's in and out.
even if you do not use exactly the same wording of the labels, and I think that this is mediated by something which is not strictly an ontology. It is a kind of thesaurus which provides synonyms which are linked to the labels in the ontology.
Yeah. So you're talking about searching. So I want to ask this searchable, right? Is it searching an ontology or searching an ontology term?
That one is particular.
Okay. It should be good now. Sorry.
It is good now. Yeah.
That one is
Okay. Okay. Thanks. But I think we've got it. Sorry, we're still struggling with technical issues.
Yeah. So what did Stefan just? Can you summarize what he said when he said that by searchable it's not ontology problem, but maybe a thesaurus problem?
Yeah, this is a problem, let's say, of an index, of an indexing research, which is linked to an ontology, because I don't think that the task of ontologists is to provide a maximum of synonyms. I think if there is one self-explaining label, it's good. Let's say adding a kind of thesaurus, or let's say an index, which covers also synonyms, acronyms, and so on, makes it more searchable. But if this is not added, it's not necessarily a bad ontology. But according to the use case, maybe it turns out that such thesaurus needs to be created to make it more user-friendly, so that if a user doesn't find bleeding because he or she didn't search for hemorrhage, doesn't conclude that the ontology is bad just because it did not hit exactly the same term.
And I
Yes.
think that the issue, it could be even that searchable. Of what I was thinking more is, for example, if the ontology, so you can find the ontology is not only on the term, but if you make your ontology be able to be searched, somebody can find your ontology, because that's it's not only find the term. But even if I search some ontology about, I don't know, climate change, is there one? Can I find that? And it's associated with the accessibility too, because they are, you can have a very good ontology, but nobody knows that is there. I don't know.
No, I think this speaker is in and out.
Now.
Yeah, now we can hear. No, now we can't.
Yeah, that's fine. You are going in and out. We are not hearing anything at the moment.
Yeah, maybe they cannot hear us.
I don't know. Something went wrong because we were hearing until we heard the text. Okay, if they come back.
Maybe they cannot hear us.
Yeah. Other comment here from the online participants?
Okay. Can you hear this?
Yeah,
microphone?
this one is better. That one is better.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So,
Oh, no.
No, we cannot hear you now.
He's
No?
wearing a Fitbit.
No, I can hear.
No.
No. Maybe, okay.
The idea we go and then